If you want to be able to walk your dog, go to the gym, do the dishes, or anything else while listening to the show, you can subscribe on the iTunes podcast app or on your Android app, such as Podcast Addict. It makes it so much easier to take the program with you. You can even listen in your car. Did you know that there is technology now and more technology in the works that can help your parents stay in their home? Learn more about this technology and more in today's episode of Rock Your Retirement with our guest, Toby Cohantz.
Talking with people about how to have a great retirement. This is the Rock Your Retirement Show. We don't talk about money, but we talk about almost everything else you need to rock your retirement. Now, here's your host, Kathy Klein.
Welcome to Rock Your Retirement. This is the show where we help you have a great retirement. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about insurance. We talk about all the other things that you're going to need to know when you retire. Or if you're already retired, we can help you have a better retirement. We help you rock your retirement in such areas as social and family, entertainment and travel, volunteer work and philanthropy, matters of the spirit and soul, sex. Yeah, sometimes we talk about that too, but we usually leave that up to the therapist. Last of all, we talk about ways to help your parents or others who may need your help now or in the future. Baby boomers are what's known as the sandwich generation. What that means is you're helping not only your children, but your parents too. And we want to be able to help you manage that as well. We want you to be passionate about your retirement, and we want you to rock your retirement. Our guest today is Toby Cohantz. And Toby has been a serial entrepreneur starting out in the recording industry in Hollywood. And then he moved to such fields as manufacturing, government, and business management. He's part of several organizations and companies that work with seniors and fall prevention. Life Support Medical is a research and development company that is partnered with New Mexico State University. The San Diego Fall Prevention Task Force is sponsored by Aging and Independent Services, a division of the County of San Diego's Health and Human Service Agency, is also something that he's involved in. And in addition to that, he also works with the electronic Caregiver company, a company that provides health and safety solutions for seniors and aging in place marketplace. Toby, does that pretty much sum up what you do?
Yeah, that was a mouthful, and
I know it was.
Thank you for that introduction.
You're welcome, and welcome to the show. So before we start talking about all of that, tell me a little bit about yourself. Did you grow up when you were, 5 years old and thought, wow, I want to work in the senior fall prevention industry, or what did you want to be when you were 5?
Well, I wasn't even thinking about being a senior, much less working in the senior vertical. Like all 5-year-old kids, I was out, stuffing lizards in my pants and, running across fields, flying kites, that sort of thing. So it wasn't really on my radar.
Well, when you were in high school, did you have a career in mind, or how did you fall into this line of work?
Well, I've actually had several careers leading up to my work now with seniors, and I bring all of those experiences to the table. It's been in the past 6 years that I've really been focused on the senior marketplace, and it's been with Life Support Medical, which is the research and development arm of our company, and the electronic Caregiver, which is the medical alert end of that technology. So I've been involved in technology for about 25 years now. So I was attracted to Life Support Medical, and I was the director for the Mobile Fall Risk Assessment Lab. And it's the first mobile gait lab of its kind in the country. And we put it together with the help of New Mexico State University. And it's got an 8-foot pressure mat walkway with 11,000 sensors, 10 3D motion capture cameras.
No, wait. What?
Okay. Well, it's a lab that we put seniors through, and we collect data on how they walk. And so it's
Oh, okay.
a lot of equipment that we take across the country. We go into senior centers, independent living communities, hospitals, and we're able to actually generate a report on the spot that gives them their risk ratio for falls. So it's different, and I love the technology side of it. Now, the data that we've collected, it's the largest database now in the country for gait analysis for seniors. After several years of collecting that data and sending it over to New Mexico State University, we're now finally being able to take that data and the results from these tests and turn it into products and services for the aging in place seniors. That's going to be coming out in Q3 of this year. We have some smartphone applications, we have some tablet applications, and it's really leading edge for folks that are staying at home. They want to extend their independence longer. They don't want to go to an independent living community right away. They don't want to go to assisted living. So this is really an exciting opportunity, I think, for those that are in this vertical and also for the seniors themselves.
So you were talking about mobile apps. So what do you mean by that? Do you mean that so for example, my dad has Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that I could put a mobile app on his phone so I could figure out if he's fallen down, or how does that work?
Well, that's part of it, but we're also looking at monitoring their gait. So we'll look over a 30-day period what their gait looks like, or how they're walking, and if that gait changes, we will create an alert, and that alert can go to the person who has the smartphone with them. It could go to you, and that would also give them a increased risk ratio for falls at that point in time. It also is going to work as a medical alert system. So it's mobile. You'll be able to press a button, and you'll be speaking to a Class B EMT. So that's pretty exciting. You're no longer wearing just a wrist pendant or something around the neck. It's actually incorporated into your smartphone.
That's fantastic. Now, this last week, I had a client in my business.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't know that I have this is kind of my hobby and my passion
Mm-hmm.
to interview people about their retirement. But I had a client that wound up going into the hospital. His cell phone died, and all of his contact information was in his cell phone, and there was no way to reach him. And I finally located him by calling the sheriffs, had the sheriff put a note on his door, and then some of his friends were able to locate him at he's actually in a skilled nursing facility now, and were able to bring him his cell phone charger because nobody had one similar at the skilled nursing facility where he wound up. So does your system do anything if the battery dies? Is there any kind of alert to the caregiver that, hey, we haven't heard from, so and so in 3 days, or is that maybe in the works?
It's in the works. I know that with our current equipment that stays in the house, if a battery goes out in one of the sensors, we are alerted at our home office. The call center is alerted, and also the consumer is alerted. So there's 3 alerts that go on as a battery begins to die, because it's important. I mean, what you just stated is a great example of what happens when, if you will, the technology fails. The battery dies, and it's really important that we keep those lines of communication open at all times.
Well, that's good that you're working on that. So, but you don't just do fall system. I mean, isn't that I've fallen and I can't get up? I mean, is that you?
That's another company, actually, but we do. It is a medical alert system, or what they call a PERS system, a personal emergency response system. And we have some features that are unique to our company, like a inactivity alert sensor. So in the event that somebody has a stroke, they can't get out of bed, they've fallen, they've hit their head, they're unconscious, we're still going to catch them. And with just a button, people will take these things off their neck, they'll leave them on the counter, they won't wear them, and it's really of no use. It doesn't serve a purpose. So we've got a series of backup systems that will catch somebody if they do fall, including help buttons that can go in the shower or in the tub. So if they slip and fall there, I mean, we know where people fall. They fall getting out of bed in the morning, they fall in the shower, and they fall in the kitchen. So we can put buttons in those areas that people can press, even if they're not wearing a necklace or a wrist pendant.
Wow. So you work mostly with people in their homes, not in assisted living facilities, or do you do
We
both?
do have some assisted living communities that have adopted the system, and they're happy with it. It gives them another level of alerts that their patients can use in case of an emergency, because they can't always have a nurse 24/7 in their room with all of their patients. So yeah, they will use the electronic caregiver, absolutely.
That's great. Now you have other programs too. Don't you have some Jetson-like for those of you who are young, the Jetsons was a TV show that I used to watch when I was
I
little.
remember it.
Yeah, and do you have some Jetson-like programs too,
Yeah,
like
we do. Yeah, this is really an exciting part of what's coming up here towards the end of the year. We are creating these virtual caregivers, and with tablets throughout the house, and the virtual caregiver has all the information, your medication, when you're supposed to take your medication, your favorite music, your favorite books. It can read to you. It really becomes a virtual companion. And we have some interesting camera technology that doesn't actually, you don't see the face of the person, but we can detect if they have fallen. And and the virtual assistant will try to reach out to that person if they can't get a hold of them. They'll call immediately the call center. So these are more advanced levels of medical alert systems that we're going to be releasing. I mean, we're going into beta right now, but we'll be releasing it probably Q4.
oh, that'd be great, especially for people who don't live near their parents.
Hmm.
I know lots of people who live in it, like myself, for
Mm,
example. I live in San Diego, and my
mm,
mother lives in Washington State, and my father lives in Florida.
right. So this is something that we found that especially for you mentioned at the beginning of the show the baby boomers who are really kind of the sandwich generation and the stress levels that they're experiencing when they do have parents that are not in the same city as them or kids that aren't in the same city as them. This is a way where you could at least have 24/7 eyes on, if you will, on your parents. And it does help. I know my mother-in-law, her great aunt, who's now 102,
Wow.
yeah, she and her sister were having to take turns going every day to visit her. And they were really concerned about what happens if she falls, hits her head, and we don't know about it. So we put an electronic caregiver in. This was about 6 years ago. And the thing that she liked the most about it was that inactivity alert sensor. So she felt comfortable that if something were to happen and uh, Rima couldn't get to a phone, they would at least be alerted. So this does help to reduce those stress levels. And there's some research going on right now at UCSD about caregivers and how the stress of caregiving is actually increasing cardiac events. So it's important as we retire and we think about retirement for ourselves, or we're in retirement and we have aging parents, to really reach out. There's support groups around you, I'm sure, that you can find. Um, Try and utilize what's available out there to keep your parents as protected as possible, reduce fall risk, and there's a variety of things, if we have time, that we can talk about, that what people can do for themselves and for their parents.
Well, I've heard that if you're a spouse caregiver, that you actually have a higher chance of dying first because the stress level's so high.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, we want to reduce the stress
Hmm.
as much as possible. I can tell you that when my own father finally moved out of his two-story condominium,
Right.
that relieved my stress. I've been trying to get them to do that for 5 years. I couldn't believe it. He falls constantly. The good news is he's really short, so he's really low to the ground.
Hmm.
And when he was I don't know, a wrestler or something in high school, so he never really seriously injured himself, but his legs look like he's been in a battle,
Hmm.
battle to the death.
Hmm.
He's got scars everywhere from falling all the time.
Sure. Well, the fact that he was physically active young probably contributes to his surviving, as you were saying. And on that note, exercise is key in risk reduction for falls. And things like Tai Chi, a very low impact exercise, are great for restoring balance. Yoga, walking, just anything that you can do to keep yourself active is going to extend your lifetime and your independence. I mean, it isn't just your lifetime. I mean, we can keep you alive now with all kinds of pharmaceutical drugs, but if you're not independent, do you really want to be there?
Right. What kind of life is it?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know about you, but I want to live I want to rock my retirement. That's why I started this show.
That's right. Hey, we're the baby boomer generation. We're going to go down fighting. I mean,
exactly.
We're not going out. We're not going out without a scream.
So tell me about one of your clients that was particularly heartwarming, interesting, or funny.
Funny is a tough one because a lot of the clients that I've had were really in need of a system, had fallen multiple times. But just having them, I think, respond to having a system in their home to where they feel more comfortable. They feel like, okay, now I can reach out and speak with a medical professional.
Do you have one client in particular that you can think of that this really, really helped and you were so happy that you installed it in their home?
That's got to go to my mother-in-law. The story I was telling you earlier. I mean, it changed her life. I mean, she was literally driving an hour and a half, 4 days a week. And
wow.
So the stress on her was really high. And it was just great to see her be able to relax. And so I would say that, that's really a close personal experience where she again was able to reduce her stress and she just felt so much more comfortable.
So you think that's why I'm assuming that it's the baby boomers and the caregivers that buy your products, not the senior themselves. Who normally is the first person that contacts your company? Would it be me as the daughter, or would it be my father as, wow, I've fallen 15 times today, maybe I need to get something?
Gosh, our parents are from that generation where they just don't want to be a burden to anyone, and least of all to their kids. And so in fact, a lot of them do not report their falls. And so we won't even know that they've fallen. It ends up typically being the decision maker or the influencer, which is, would be the kids. And it's because, gee, Dad did fall 3 times already this month. Do we need to put him into a nursing facility? Do we need assisted living? Do we need to bring in a caregiver? How much is that all going to cost? And the electronic caregiver is one way to create these, belts and suspenders, and do it at a really inexpensive cost to the influencer, to the kids.
But you don't replace a caregiver. You're used like if
So caregivers will come in. It depends upon, are you going to go caregiving 24/7? Is it 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, 3 days a week? It depends upon what the needs are of the individual. It depends upon what the family can afford. And so rarely do you have 24/7 caregiving, a live person there. And so the electronic caregiver really becomes a backup system.
And that's mostly currently what we've been talking about is fall prevention.
Mm-hmm.
But if I remember correctly from some of our previous conversations, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't you have this cool technology to tell you whether or not they took their medicine?
Yeah, that's part of this new camera technology that we're working with right now. We will actually be able to, with the camera mounted, say, underneath the kitchen cabinet, they'll come up to the tablet and they'll actually see what the pharmaceutical medication looks like. It's a blue and white capsule or it's a pink tablet. And they'll take that out of their tray and they'll put it in their mouth, take some water and drink, and we'll actually be able to detect if they've swallowed it.
Oh, that's great.
So is everyone going to want to have that? Probably not, but it's invaluable. I mean, this is one of the problems that we hear that physicians say is, leads to readmissions, leads to falls, leads to complications, is that their patients aren't following their recommendations in terms of the medication. And it's something insane like, 18 medications on average is what seniors are taking now. It's an astounding number. And so just just being able to remember what you're supposed to take at what time can be difficult, every day. And so we do have automated medication reminders built into our system. But even with that, we want to make sure that the person has taken their medication.
Yeah, I mean, even if they have a spouse, I know that my stepmother lives with my father, and it's sort of up to her to remind him to take his medication all the time. Seems like it would take a burden off her if, something buzzed or beeped or, did something to say, oh, yeah, it's time.
Yeah, I mean, this really, to kind of bring this back to your show of, rock your retirement, we don't want to end up being caregivers 24/7 for our parents. We want to support them. We want to be there for them. We want to give them the best that they can possibly, we can possibly give to them. But we also want to be able to live our own life and not be constantly thinking about, did they take their medication? Have they fallen? Do they need help? And so there's something like the electronic caregiver is a great system to have in place to take those questions you have and those doubts and fears and put them behind you.
So I don't want you to mention a price because podcasts are they live forever.
Okay.
So somebody could be listening to this podcast 5 years from now.
Sure.
But is it affordable?
Oh, yeah.
Am I going to have to take out a mortgage on my home to afford your service?
Well, let's put it this way. It's equivalent to what you would pay for an hour and a half of caregiving services, an hour and a half.
And is that for the whole system, or is that for a month?
That's for the whole system, and that includes the monitoring services. We have other levels, where we add on more equipment, more services. We have things like telemed, which is this is great, by the way. 24/7, you have access to a licensed physician in your state. And that's the average is 15 minutes. You call in and you're speaking to a licensed physician within 15 minutes, and they'll have your medical records. They can prescribe non-regulated drugs, antibiotics, that sort of thing, creams, ointments. You don't have to go to the ER.
Wow.
They'll call.
But you can't get things like, a lot of my clients are on like diazepam. You can't get things like that.
Or opioids. You're not going to. That's something that you'd have to
go to the doctor.
It's regulated, right.
Okay, but if they think they have an infection in their leg or something like that, they could get a cream,
right,
without having to go to the ER, because it is a problem getting a lot of seniors to get to the doctor. The transportation is an issue.
Sure. So this is something that we felt was a really value added service that could help seniors. So we added that into our to our toolkit of what's available.
Is your toolkit on your internet site? Like, do you have a list of everything that's?
We do. Yeah.
So you have a list of everything that you have, and then do you have a list of coming soon, or do you just put things on as they get out of beta?
Right. I mean, we're talking about what's coming down the road, but that's all stuff that we're working on. We're not publicizing that on our website. Our website is electroniccaregiver.com.
Okay, and we'll make sure we repeat that by the end of the show as well for people. We'll make sure that we give out your contact information.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we've addressed the stress, because I know that you and I spoke about that before. And tell me how you help our clients, our sandwich generation, our baby boomers, rock their retirement. Is it mostly the stress reduction, or do you do that in some other way as well?
Well, I think it is the stress reduction. I think it is knowing that, again, there's another set of eyes on mom and dad. It is. I hear this from so many influencers. We call them influencers, but it's the kids of the parents, where they're trying to get mom and dad into some more care, some more help, and they're just really in denial. And they're fighting it. So something like this, which is really an unobtrusive system in the home, is a way that they can get that extra level of protection and security and safety. And that just, again, I'm moving into retirement now, and both of my parents are gone. So I'm not faced with this issue, but I have lots of friends who are. And it's a real concern. It's a real consideration. Where are you going to move? Are you, when you retire, are you going to leave the city you're in and go somewhere else? Do you have plans to relocate? And how does that affect your distance to your parents? Are you going to have your parents come live with you, or a parent come live with you? And in some instances, they're in a guest home in the back of the property. I have one friend. His dad was falling down all the time, and he was at home. He was working at home on his computer, but he could not hear his dad call out for help. So once he got the system, even though he's at home and his dad is basically next door to him, he couldn't hear him. And now, of course, with the system, he's alerted, and
a relief.
That just changed his whole life. Yeah.
What a relief.
Mm-hmm.
So, I am so glad that you were able to come on the show today to explain to our audience what they can do for their parents, or some of our listeners are dealing with these issues with a spouse. So
or themselves.
Yeah. But like you said, a lot of us won't call, we don't ask for help. So it's usually somebody else that says, hey,
right.
We need this.
Well, just before we close out here, just 1 in 3 adults over 65 are going to fall this year. 1 in 3 over 65 will fall this year. And once they've fallen, it's like 50% will now fall within 6 months. So.
Oh, wait a minute. So what you said is 1 in 3 adults over 65 will fall. And then once they fall, they have a 50% chance of falling again in 6 months. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. So.
Wow.
When and if that happens to you, let's not cut your retirement short by ignoring what's happening. Let's get to a doctor, internist, or a PT, physical therapist, and talk about it. Let's not hide it and say, "Oh, I'll be fine. I just tripped over my own feet." Well, when you're 20, you trip over your own feet, you land on your feet. When you turn 65 and you don't have that same speed of reflex and action, you go down. Well, we have to be aware of what's happening with our body, and let's not hide this stuff. Let's be proactive, and if something like that happens, speak to a physician. Speak to your family members. Let them know what's going on. It could be an indication of something else that is around the corner. And if you get to it earlier, guess what? You get to stay independent longer. That's the whole thing. I mean, we're retiring later. We're living longer because of the wonderful pharmaceuticals we have. Let's keep ourselves independent and enjoying that lifespan as much as we possibly can.
That is excellent advice. I absolutely agree. The problem is that 65 today doesn't seem old. Now maybe that could be because I'm getting closer to that, and my husband is, over the age of 65, but it just doesn't seem old. I mean, I have lots of friends who are over 65, and I can't believe, I'm like, wow, it doesn't seem old. So I think the people in their own minds that are 65 and they fall, they still feel like they're 40.
Oh, I do. I still think I'm, 30, 40 years old, and except when if I start to climb up a ladder onto the roof, I notice that I don't have that same sense of balance.
Oh.
And so I immediately become extremely cautious when I do anything like that. Climbing up on ladders, even step stools in your home, just be aware, just be careful. And if you start to feel like I don't really have control of the situation, go back down.
Oh my gosh.
Call in a neighbor, have them replace the light.
Exactly. I don't let my husband climb on ladders. Like, no.
We're not going there.
Okay, so we're coming to the wrap-up stage. So there are 2 questions that I ask all of my guests, whether they're retirees or vendors, and I consider you to be a vendor. And the first question is, what do you think people should know before they retire? And it could have something to do with what you do, or it could have nothing to do with what you do. Just what's something that you think that everybody should know before they retire?
There's really a couple of things. One of them is exercise. If you're not involved in some kind of exercise right now, get involved now, and just make it part of your life for the rest of your life. Exercise is key, not only to keeping yourself from falling, but just to having overall better health, better cognition, and a much more enjoyable life. And the other thing besides exercise is to have plans for long-term care. It's something that we have put off and we don't think about it. Insurance companies, there were something like, 18 insurance companies at one point in time that sold long-term care insurance. Now it's down to 2, and it's really hard to get. So as you're planning for retirement and you're planning for either relocation or staying in your home or these kinds of things, think about long-term care and what will happen if that becomes something that's necessary. So those are 2 things that I can put out there. And I know that people don't want to think about it, but at least consider it. Find out what's the cost are. It's extraordinarily expensive. So and with that in mind, you want to think of things that you can do to keep yourself from assisted living. So
Exactly.
Mhm.
I was really lucky. I bought long-term care insurance when I was 40. And thank goodness the company's still in business, but they don't sell it anymore.
No.
So
You're
knock on wood, hopefully it'll still be around when I need it.
you're one of the lucky ones. Yes.
I am lucky. And I did a quote for myself before I turned 50, about a month before I turned 50, to see how much it would cost. And first of all, I can't get the policy that I had. And second of all, I found a policy with a 1-year waiting period with a inflation, because I'm young, so I wanted to have 5% inflation, and I wanted it to be unlimited. They don't sell unlimited policies anymore, so I could get it for 10 years. And for me, and at the time I was 49, so that was the age they were using, was over $12,000 a year. And the policy that I have is actually better than that. So I told my niece that if she ever got a notice in the mail saying that I hadn't paid my premium, that she should pay it, and I'll pay her double.
Kathy, that's a really great idea. And to have a nephew, to have a son or a daughter or a brother or sister who, you ask them to be there for you in case of, if I don't make this payment, or if something happens, can I count on you for this? It's really great to have that. So that's a great suggestion.
I wanted to make sure that policy was always paid, because that's the only reason why they can cancel you.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, last question.
Sure.
We have a lot of listeners who are either new retirees or maybe they're stuck in their lives at the moment. If you were sitting across the table from one of these people, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them to have a successful retirement?
Laugh a lot.
Laughter is the best medicine, isn't it?
It is. It is. Have a sense of humor about yourself, and getting older, and appreciate it, that it's part of the life cycle. And really, I've always tried in my life, to the various stages, whether I was in high school or just out of high school going into college and hitchhiking across the country, to really soak in that moment, because I knew that I was going to change. Boy, what insight there, huh? I knew that I was going to get older and I would not be able to do certain things that I could do now. And I think that's true of all the various stages that we go through in life. The things that you can do now, do them. Don't wait. Don't put them off. And really embrace the changes that are coming. It's part of life. It's part of the life cycle. It's part of who we are. And keep a sense of humor about it, and love yourself for those changes.
Fantastic advice. Toby, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. You've been a fantastic guest. How can my listeners contact you?
Well, they can go to electroniccaregiver.com. That's our website. They can also reach me at my email address. It's T as in Tom, Cohantz, Cohantz at lifesupportmedical.com.
Thanks again, and we will see you next time on Rock Your Retirement.
Thanks for listening to the Rock Your Retirement Show. If you are rocking your retirement or know someone who would make a great guest on our show, please send us an email at podcast@rockyourretirement.com.
Are you a couple who is living in North County, San Diego, and would like to make more friends who are aged 50 and over? North County Young at Heart Meetup Group is looking for more members. The membership dues are only $10 a year, but if you host one meetup, your dues are waived. For more information, if you are in San Diego, just go to meetup.com, sign up for a free meetup membership, and then search for North County Young at Heart. Remember, if you host an event during your 3-month trial, your fees are waived.